What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to break down the difference between some of the sharpest ADP in fantasy football land on Underdog Fantasy versus Yahoo, so that you guys know who the best values are on the Yahoo Fantasy app if you guys are drafting maybe this weekend or next weekend, so you can be certain that you take advantage of some of the biggest discrepancies between where the sharps are taking certain players and more casual players on Yahoo Fantasy are taking certain players. And this can be super helpful for you guys in your Yahoo Fantasy drafts. If you're in a more casual league where a lot of the people in your league will just blindly follow ADP, don't necessarily know who they should be drafting in what areas of the draft, so that you can be more cognizant of, if a player is 6 rounds, after ADP on where they usually go on Underdog, then you obviously know that that is a great value and you can snatch up those players. And if you guys play on Sleeper, if you guys play on ESPN, we already have those videos live on the channel. If you want to check them out, we could do NFL or any other fantasy apps. If you guys want to see it, let us know down below in the comments. But without further ado, if you guys enjoy, hit the like button, comment down below any of your thoughts, subscribe to the channel if you are new. But let's hit the intro. All right, so as we did in the other two videos, Sleeper and ESPN, here are the biggest values early in drafts. Now, I'm going to mainly go over some like mid-round values, but some of the guys that are going a little bit later early on in the draft that you guys can take advantage of. You guys can see some of the names there. Marquise Brown going well after ADP, who I'm going to talk about in a bit. Gabriel Davis, who's, he goes high on Underdog. The Sharps are very high on him, so he's kind of just universally undervalued across Sleeper, ESPN, and Yahoo. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, those two Broncos wide receivers, go significantly higher on Underdog than they go on here. And then we have guys like Mike Williams, Juju Smith-Schuster, Allen Robinson, and Travis Etienne, another guy that consistently goes later on these more casual platforms than he does on a site like Underdog. So let's get into the first guy. We're going to talk about, 10 or so names in this video. Kadarius Toney, a guy that I talked about in the Sleeper video as well. Another one that is just universally undervalued on all these platforms. He's going off the board at pick 140, and he's pick 80 on Underdog. So we're talking about a guy, it's like a 6th-round pick on Underdog. He's a second-year wide receiver on a per route, per game basis last year. He was really good as a rookie. He's dealing with some injuries in training camp, so that obviously presents some risk. But at pick 140, you're getting all that risk baked in. His yards per route run last year was 2.14. It was better than Tyreek Hill. It was better than CeeDee Lamb. It was better than Mike Williams. It's better than Chris Godwin. It's better than Michael Pittman. Better than Stephon Diggs. Better than DK Metcalf. This guy was extremely efficient as a rookie wide receiver last year. The Sharps are taking him in that prime 6th to 7th round range where breakout wide receivers typically go, especially with those second-year guys. And on Sleeper, on Yahoo, and on ESPN, he goes way undervalued. So huge target of mine if I'm playing on any of those platforms. Marquise Brown, who I kind of touched on earlier, his ADP is absolutely egregious. We have a guy who should get out to a great start to the NFL season with Kyler Murray as his quarterback, a guy he played with in college, with DeAndre Hopkins suspended for the first 6 games of the season. We have Marquise Brown, who was a 140 target receiver last year, going in the 7th round with a huge target projection in a good to great offense that the Arizona Cardinals have been, especially at the beginning of the season. The experts recognize this. They've been taking this guy, at the 3-4 turn in Underdog drafts, and this is a guy that you can get in the 7th round on Yahoo. He was a 140 target receiver last year, back-to-back seasons of 26+% of his team's targets. He will feast without DeAndre Hopkins on the field. This offense is going to throw the ball a lot more than the Baltimore Ravens have been in the past couple of years. And Marquise Brown, like I said, has been able to carve out a great target share despite sharing the field with a guy like Mark Andrews. And there's nobody really on the field for the Cardinals that's going to demand as many looks as Mark Andrews does. Maybe Zach Ertz is involved, but I don't think he's going to be a huge target like Mark Andrews was for Marquise Brown in Baltimore. And those big plays should come back with him having Kyler Murray instead of, Tyler Huntley, who we had towards the back half of last season. I also think, too, people underrate how much getting out to a hot start in your fantasy league matters. And Marquise Brown, if you guys play in the league where people are very reactive and they will, look at who's doing well in the fantasy season after the month of September is over, and they're like, holy crap, Marquise Brown's been a top 5 receiver for the first month of the season, you might be able to flip Marquise Brown at that point in time for, somebody getting out to a bit of a slower start, like a CeeDee Lamb or an AJ Brown or Mike Evans or something like that. So definitely a guy that I'm targeting in all my drafts, especially if I play on Yahoo. Just a huge value over there. Chris Godwin, another guy that is particularly risky to draft on Underdog at 57 overall where he goes, but at 94 where he goes on Yahoo, you are really getting that risk baked into his cost. He's first year off the ACL tear, right? He's coming back. He hasn't played in any preseason games, but it does sound like the goal was always be ready for week one. It's possible that you taking him in the 5th, 6th round where he goes on Underdog is a little risky, but we're taking a 8th to 9th round pick on Chris Godwin on Yahoo. If he's healthy, you're getting a back end wide receiver 1 in PPR. There's no Antonio Brown anymore. There's no Rob Gronkowski anymore. And as long as Godwin's healthy, the passing game will funnel through him over the middle of the field with Mike Evans on the big plays and in the red zone, Leonard Fournette out of the backfield as well. This offense should be very, very concentrated. And when Godwin's on the field, he makes a big difference with how defenses play against the Buccaneers because they can't, spend all their energy focusing on Mike Evans. That makes him more efficient. That makes Godwin more efficient, makes Brady more efficient, and the whole offense is better as a result. So another guy that I think is a great, great value, Darnell Mooney, a guy that I'm not really high on, admittedly, on Underdog because he goes to pick 60 on Underdog, which is like the back end of the 5th round, early 6th round type of area. And the reason he's going that high is because he's a very easy projection, right? He's had a lot of targets last year. He's probably going to have a lot of targets this year. No more Allen Robinson in the fold to compete with. He's a talented wide receiver, I would say, but he's not like an elite wide receiver. I don't expect him to be a great, great player, but this Bears offense is terrible. And I don't think Justin Fields is going to have some breakout monster second season where he elevates the play of this whole offense. But the nice part is that Yahoo isn't baking that into the cost, right? He's a nice value in the 7th, 8th round. You're getting a guy that can give you, good high-end wide receiver 2 production at his ceiling. And his median projection is not where you're drafting him, like on Underdog, where you have to draft him around that wide receiver 26, 27 type of area where I think he's probably going to finish. This could be a guy on Yahoo that kind of gives you that Brandon Cooks effect from last year. A couple more guys that make a ton of sense. And I'm going to group these last 2 guys together, or these last 2 categories of players together, because they all have, similar things in common. These 3 guys, Elijah Moore, Devontae Smith, and Rashad Bateman, just like Kadarius Toney, are all second-year wide receivers, right? The Sharps take these guys high in Underdog Fantasy in anticipation of a breakout season. Elijah Moore, Devontae Smith, and Rashad Bateman all have bull cases where they see 130 plus target seasons. All of them showed a lot as a rookie, with Elijah Moore showing that he was capable of being, a godly separator at the next level coming out of college. Devontae Smith, also a very good separator his rookie season. Same goes for Rashad Bateman. He has a little bit more to prove because he didn't play a ton last year, but a golden opportunity to do so operating over the middle for Lamar Jackson, one of the quarterbacks in the NFL that we definitely want our wide receivers catching the ball from. All 3 of these guys go highly in sharp drafts like Underdog because the Sharps recognize that if you hit on mid-round breakout wide receivers, you have the path to high win rate type of seasons and winning these, taking down these huge tournaments like Best Ball Mania 3. If you guys are interested in checking out Best Ball Mania 3, it is a $2 million to first, couple other prizes, $1 million to the regular season champion, $1 million to second place as well. You can use the promo code FSC at sign up and first deposit on Underdog Fantasy to get 100% back on whatever you put in. So if you put in $20, you'll get 40 on the site to play with. If you put in $100, they'll match you up to $100. So check that out if you're interested. Link will be down below in the pinned comment. But the very fact that these Sharps are willing to take these guys high makes them decent investments because they wouldn't be being drafted in rounds 3 to 8 on Underdog Fantasy if they didn't show a lot as rookies. And you guys can see a thread from Ryan Heath on Twitter, basically where he talked about drafting mid-round sophomore wide receivers going in rounds 3 to 8 in redraft league since 2014. A lot of these guys have returned a lot on ADP. 35%, to be fair, is a really good hit rate. And that's about 10% higher than all the other wide receivers going in that area. And not only that, but they also boomed and they hit really, really high ceilings more frequently than the other wide receivers going in that area of the draft because of that unknown factor, right? We don't know what we're getting with some of these guys. They're young wide receivers. We don't know if they're going to be great. We don't know if they're going to be bad. That's the risk that you're taking by drafting them early. But if you build out, a solid core of wide receivers beforehand and you get yourself a 7th round, 8th round Elijah Moore on Yahoo Fantasy, then you could be talking about a guy that's your wide receiver 4, 5, or 6 on your roster, depending on how wide receiver heavy you went early on, especially for those of you guys who play in shallow leagues. Like if you play in a league that's like 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, and you're drafting in the 8th round, grabbing guys like Elijah Moore and Devontae Smith and Rashad Bateman just makes a ton of sense because you're just filling out your bench at that point with a lot of upside. You can piece together production pretty easily on the waiver wire if need be. So I love all those second-year wide receivers, especially on Yahoo. Another subset of wide receivers that is going way too late, and this is probably the most crucial trend that I noticed on Yahoo, is that there is a massive market discrepancy between Underdog Fantasy and rookie wide receivers versus Yahoo. You guys can see some of the pick discrepancies. It is absurd. You have Sky Moore, for example, going nearly 100 picks on Yahoo after where he goes on Underdog. You have to draft this guy on Underdog in the 7th, 8th, 9th round because you got to stack him up with Patrick Mahomes. On Yahoo Fantasy, you can get this guy with your last pick in like a 16-round draft, which is absolutely absurd. And the same can be said for all these rookie wide receivers. They're all going way undervalued. Traylon Burks, Jalen Tolbert, Drake London, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jahan Dotson, Christian Watson, David Bell. I could list out pretty much every rookie wide receiver. The Yahoo Fantasy ADP is not wise to the fact that rookie wide receivers are typically great investments in the late rounds. You guys can see a tweet on the screen that I tweeted out a couple months ago, but basically we've gotten very good at predicting which wide receivers will fit into the top 24 wide receiver 2 or better type of threshold that we want to get out of a late round wide receiver to be considered what I would consider a hit. The guys that usually buck this trend that are drafted outside the top 100 are young wide receivers. Last year, it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was a rookie. Hollywood Brown, who was a third-year wide receiver. In 2020, it was Jefferson and Ayuk, who were both rookie wide receivers. 2019, we had DJ Chark, who was a second-year wide receiver, so on and so forth. You get the point. Basically, the way that you want to be hitting on late-round wide receivers is to be targeting rookies and second-year players and maybe third-year wide receivers dealing with some injuries early in their career. 90% of the time, we've hit on the guys that we think are going to be great wide receivers within the top 100 picks of ADP. We don't typically see a lot of late round wide receivers ascend into every week starters unless they're an unknown factor, right? Unless it's a rookie, unless it's a second year guy. And you guys can see the hit rates on the screen right now. But basically, to sum this up real quick, a 10% win rate just refers to a win rate in best ball leagues. So guys that were considered a hit in the late rounds offering a 10% win rate, which is about 2% above the average 1 out of 12 win rate, which is about 8.33%, 50% or more of the time every year since 2018. These wide receivers that have been doing this have been either rookie wide receivers or second-year wide receivers. So investing into that unknown factor, those rookie wide receivers, again, if you play in any kind of shallow league format where you're not starting that many players, just absolutely hammer your bench with wide receivers that are rookies, right? Just grab a Drake London, and then the next round grab Chris Olave, and then grab Garrett Wilson, and then grab Traylon Burks. Like, just absolutely hammer the shit out of these guys on the Yahoo platform because they are grossly mispriced. And you're not going to hit on all of them. It's never going to be that simple as saying, oh, draft a rookie wide receiver and he's going to be great. But if you're able to stack up 3 or 4 of these guys to line your bench with, there's a good chance that you might get a top 24 wide receiver out of it. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe multiple of these guys hit this year. So if you guys have noticed anything about this video, if you've noticed anything about the ADP, I have only talked about wide receivers this entire time, right? In this video, it is very much the Yahoo platform. If you guys play on Yahoo, it is very much in the vein of casual fantasy leagues where running backs are pushed up the board. A lot of the biggest, misprices from the other side of the spectrum, players that are going too high on Yahoo, are mostly Antonio Gibson and, David Montgomery types that are dead zone running backs being pushed up the board because people feel like they need to lock down their RB2 slot. You guys know here at FSC, if you guys are new to the channel, basically we are very much in the vein of picking the best players, not overvaluing running backs because they are, again, they provide a high ceiling in fantasy, but we don't think they are the be all end all. In Yahoo formats, the way I'd be approaching drafts, get yourself an anchor running back, maybe 2 in the first 3 rounds, and then just absolutely hammer wide receivers throughout the duration of the draft. Obviously, deviate for an elite quarterback or an elite tight end if you need to. But for the most part, this ADP is very, very exploitable at the wide receiver position. So if you guys play on Yahoo, again, keep that in mind. When it comes to these wide receivers, they are all great, great values on that platform. And if you guys enjoyed this video, as I mentioned in the beginning, leave a like. Really helps us out in the YouTube algorithm. Really appreciate it. If you guys want to support us in any way, patreon.com/fantasy stock exchange. We got a ton of content over there, ton of value. Our redraft rankings manifesto with a cheat sheet that you guys can print off, bring to your drafts, or use digitally and check off players as they go off the board. If you guys are just looking for a subset of rankings to use, that is available via Patreon. It's also available as a free gift at sign up and first deposit on Underdog Fantasy using the promo code FSE. Like I said, you'll get 100% deposit match back. You'll get our rankings manifestos for free, Dynasty and Redraft. Our contest has ended already. It is the 28th as I'm recording this. I will announce the winners on that later in today's live stream when I'm live streaming my Big Dog Bash team. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. If you used our promo code from August 20th to August 27th, you will be eligible for that giveaway, $50 site credit. We're giving away 5 of those on Underdog Fantasy. So we really appreciate you guys for the support so far this time of year. That being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.